I think I clicked something and I got myself out of the meeting. Are you guys going to go longer or are we all coming back? Oh, here they come. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't see everybody back yet.
they're getting close, so.
Okay, here we go. Sorry, my team, I clicked out, I think, on accident when I didn't mean to in the middle of what I was saying.
It's okay, Sandy. We're back. It's no problem.
Mila, did you get that last piece before we cut out? Oh, I can't hear you, Mila.
I did today. So if you look at the shared document, I think you'll let me know if I captured it.
So I have straw design group 2 in the shared document.
Yep, we were just capturing our notes there. We figured we'd eventually be sharing with the group, but we were using that as a shared note
Sure.
capture.
Sure. Let's get a status update about where you're at, where your straw design group is at, and if you need more time, about how much more time would you like to have? Which group would like to start? Bo.
I represent group 3. We are not at a place to share any straw design yet. We had some good opening thinking. We're having substantive and passionate discussions. And I'm going to throw out that my team probably needs 15 to 20 more minutes, I think, to bring something back to the full group.
Thank you. Group 1.
We are similar in Bo's spot. We had a really great conversation. I think we're in a spot where we've got a little bit of a frame where we can bring something back in another 15, 20, like 20 minutes is probably a more realistic number for our group.
Okay. And group 2, you have your straw design, the start of it on the shared document. How much more time would you like?
Yeah, we were still in discussion as well about the minutes part of things, and 15, 20 minutes would, I think, do us just fine.
Okay.
I would say 20.
Okay.
I think it's, you know, this is going to be really the meat of the conversation, and 20 sounds better than 15. Even I could see even a little longer, but yeah.
I could see longer as well, quite honestly.
I could see like 30, and then if people get a break, they get a break, but coming back too early, it was hard when the timer went off and we had to go back.
Yeah.
So that would be my recommendation, is 30.
Okay. Anyone opposed to 30 minutes? All right. Jody, if you'd send us back to the breakout groups and set the timer for 30 minutes, it'll be 9:36 at that time.
Okay, hold on. Just hang on, team. We're having some issues with the breakout rooms.
Hey, Jim, maybe everybody take a 5-minute bathroom break and get some coffee while Jody's finishing up the breakout rooms. And then hopefully by the time everyone's done, breakout rooms will be ready to go.
Okay. Sandy, let's see.
Sandy got her, she figured out that she thought the YouTube was down for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. She's
It,
good now.
it was
looks like.
down for a second, just so you guys know.
That's life.
So are we doing a break?
Yeah, it was made, suggestion was made to take a break. We're not going to do anything until we get into the straw design groups. Jody's having a little bit of difficulty with that right now. So take a break. When you come back, you should be in your breakout groups.
Yeah, and Dave, I don't know if you're there. I don't know if someone didn't leave one of the rooms properly because it's like stuck, the breakout rooms. So I'm
Okay.
trying to figure out how to force close it, but
I think if you delete the breakout rooms, I know it stinks, but delete them and then re-put people in.
well, that's what I'm trying to do, but it won't even let me, like it just keeps saying all breakout rooms will close in 60 seconds, but they should have already been closed a long time ago. So, let me, I don't know. Let me, hold on.
I don't see anybody missing from the screens.
No.
Dave, I'm gonna make you the host real quick
Okay.
to see. Now, can you, do you see breakout rooms?
I do not
On the like
see
the bottom by like share screens and stuff? You don't have that option?
Not at the moment,
Okay.
no.
Can you change over back to me, the host?
We'll see. I'm on my tablet right now because I was on this morning, so
Okay.
I don't know that I can do that actually.
Let me see if I can.
Oh, I got it. I got make host.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
There you go. Sorry, I had to learn how to do
Oh,
that
you're
on the on my tablet.
Awesome.
son was
Okay,
in-
no worries. That reset it. So now you want me to open them, and then Jim, remind me what time you want me to stop this now that we had some issues.
Let's do 9:45.
You're muted.
Gives people half an hour.
Stop it at, yeah, let's stop it at 9:45.
Okay, so 30 minutes, basically. 33 minutes.
Yep.
33. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna open them now. Thanks, guys. Sorry about that.
Thanks.
No problem.
hold on, please. What do you need? Huh? Where's the?
Are we supposed to be in our breakout room? Because I'm not.
Fuck me, hold this. Hold on 1 second. Ow. Ow. I just hit my knee so bad. Okay, which one are you supposed to be in, Colleen? Let's see here.
It doesn't look like any of us are in them because I can
Oh,
see
no, you're
everybody.
supposed to be. Hold on, let me see.
Because I see everybody. So
Okay. Ow. Yeah, that really hurt.
Jody, we'll see what progress they've made, but we may go back into breakout before too long.
Okay, no worries.
All right. Thanks for your work.
Absolutely.
Looks like all groups are back now. Is that correct? Okay. Let's get a check-in or a status report from the group first, and then we'll go to the others. Who'd like to start us off on where you're at?
I can start for group 2.
Thanks, Mila.
We didn't say these words to each other in our group, but I feel like we're good to go. Is that correct? Give me a thumbs up, my group. Yeah. So I think we had a really good conversation. We've got some points captured. We didn't go into language, but we just captured some bullet points that represent our thinking.
Okay. Anyone else from group 2?
Do you want us to share those?
They're on the document, right?
Yeah. I didn't know if we were all sharing or just giving a status report right now.
Yeah, it's on
Okay.
the charts document where Mila typed it, right? Yes. Ours
So
is-
you've made pretty good progress. It looks like group 1 has made quite a bit of progress. I don't see anything up from group 3. Is that right?
We
So
had
let's
it in
go
a,
ahead, Mila. Why don't you give
Go
us
ahead,
the
Bill.
high points of your straw design?
Does anybody else in my group want to talk?
I don't see
I'll go,
anybody stepping up and saying me.
I see
I'll
Sandy
go.
jumping. Sandy is jumping.
I'll go. We talked about leaving the language in 27.5.1 as it is, where it clarifies elementary school teachers. So not accepting the recommendation to change it to educators. We wanted to separate 2 times, admin directed and self-directed. We agreed that percentage calculations, because 65% was thrown out there, that is too complicated. We prefer to use minutes. 135 minutes or 3 times a week are for admin directed collaborative time. 315, 7 times per week, are teacher directed with at least 45 minutes of the 315 as teacher directed collaborative time. We like the elimination of student contact day in exchange for teacher contract day. And then we have one that's starred down there. It says discuss the Wednesday schedule for elementary schools, assigned 0.8 FTE for art, music, and PE. We didn't know if that would go under like a specials committee thing or if that was for here. We wanted to support the special ed planning committee, perhaps assigning a committee for just for the sake of special education planning time, and using a shared decision-making process to determine the planning schedule within each school. A version of the schedule is published in the building and available if somebody wants to see it. Did I say that clear?
Anyone else from group 2? Any questions of group 2 about their straw design? Chris?
Yeah, so my question is on the specials on Wednesday. Can you talk about the issues or interest around further discussion on that topic?
I just remember Deb's name was brought up because she brought up some issues about like IEPs or something like that. Can somebody from group 2 offer more explanation on that? We just wanted to explore the possibility that special education teachers perhaps need a different, I don't know, allocation or assignment of planning time.
I don't think that was the issue.
Was that it?
Heather?
I think it was Heather's about.
Heather.
I was just sorry.
I was just bringing up, since if those 0.8 schools, they do not have planning time during the day on Wednesdays, and specials are not there, and maybe the need to say, you know, no directed, admin directed time on Wednesdays for those 0.8 schools, so they do receive some sort of self-directed time on that day, outside of ERD, of course.
Yep, sorry about that. Ignore what I said.
Any other questions? Chris, does that answer your question? Okay. Who'd like to go next, group 1 or 3?
Jim, I think group 1 can go. It looks like we did a lot of work, but we're kind of working through it in process. We put our recommendation in the in the shared doc that we've been working on. The high level points that I would just talk about is we, similar to group 1, agreed that we should move the language from contact to contract day for the minutes calculations, designating it self-directed versus calling it plan time. The one thing that we were kind of in the middle of the discussion of at the end of the time was the minutes calculation for how many minutes to call self-directed time to be. Next thing, we thought that we should be defining 2 blocks of time, administratively directed and self-directed. And that really self-directed should include a lot of the collaboration language, because Allison made a really great point of talking about that, you know, just because it's self-directed doesn't mean it's not collaborative. And if the issue is to addressing teachers and teams who don't want to collaborate, that's really more of a management issue versus a language definition issue. Was her point, and I thought she made it really, really well. We talked about that we like the idea of having the self-directed plan time schedule being turned in to exec directors and the association, similar to the shared decision-making model. Dorman made a great point of saying that, you know, if they're not turning it, you're not doing it through shared decision-making, and they're not turning, you know, don't have a shared decision-making model, then it would be difficult to do all of this process collaboratively to design it. So I thought that was a really great point. And the last point that I think is a little bit different than group 1 straw or 2 straw design is that we accepted the 27.5.1 change to educators, and we can tweak the language if we want. But the point that I made in my group was that we currently use this language at the middle level in all secondary schools that have a rotating schedule for specials or electives in those groups. And if we were to leave it as an elementary only language, that could have some effects on the larger scale. Really channeling my friend Colleen, talking about, well, what about those middle and high school teachers? They didn't have word on a lot of this stuff. Well, we would be upsetting that apple cart if we didn't make the adjustment and change out the elementary language in that space. Otherwise, we have 2 kind of things left to do. We wanted to go through piece by piece the different parts of the definition for self-directed and administratively directed time. And then we wanted to spend more time talking about the minutes calculations for our group. We kind of threw around a whole lot of different, we hadn't settled on percentages or numbers. We were just kind of still talking about that.
Anyone else from group 1? Any questions about the straw design that was submitted by group 1? Group 3.
I'll start for group 3. Would invite other people to chime in as we, I wouldn't say we necessarily landed the plane. We had a lot of good discussions and we have a loose frame of ideas. There was some advocacy, but I don't believe we had consensus around reducing the definitions of time from 3, this self-directed collaboration and administratively directed collaboration, to just self-directed and administrative directed, just for the clarity's sake, and would agree with the previous piece that self-directed can be and many times would be collaborative, but to further define those, I think just muddles this overall piece. I believe we were in consensus around adjusting the language from contact to contract day. We ended up spending a lot of time discussing that if the proposed 30 minutes were realized, we'd essentially be looking at around 450 total minutes a week. That's dependent, but we feel it's a pretty reasonable ballpark. And we ended up spending a lot of our time around what is the right amount of self-directed versus administratively directed. One proposal in the room was for 270 minutes, or roughly 6 of the potential 10 chunks being for self-directed at 270, and then 180 minutes remaining would be for directed. There was strong advocacy in our room that 270 was not sufficient, and that we needed to consider something closer to 300. Issue with that particular amount, although it kind of splits proposals here between our group and I believe group 2, is that when you start dividing full minutes into smaller chunks, the bookkeeping can be difficult, and you end up having these dangling chads, if you will, of 20, 25 minutes, 15 minutes that really you can't use to any great utility. So we didn't get to a place of consensus around the right level of minutes between self-directed and directed, but we're in this ballpark. And I would say we also didn't come to consensus around the elementary specificity versus the educator. There was strong advocacy related to Dave's point and others around known and unknown implications for making it level specific around that element, and then this ongoing concern of further dividing different groups based on the level at which they teach overall. So I'd invite any one of my breakout teammates to add to that opening statement.
Actually, Bo, I just want to say thanks. I think you did a pretty good job of summing all of that up. So thank you.
Anyone else from group 3? Questions about groups 3 straw design? So do you want more time to work on your straw designs in breakout rooms? Okay, I'm sorry, Kathy, thank you.
So I don't know if I completely understand the impact of, so we separated in group 2, kept it elementary, because we felt like we heard loud and clear that what's happening at middle and high school is working there, and they don't want anything in what we do to kind of mess up what's the good stuff that's going on. So that's why we separated it. I don't think I'm clear from the other 2 groups on what could happen if you if we don't include all teachers. If somebody could address that for me, that'd be great.
I can address part of it, at least from my thinking. So for example, if you're a middle school PE teacher or art teacher, you might have, a, depending on how many of each kind of sections you're running and how many at each grade level, you get your 225 minutes. But right now, to meet the needs of students, there's a lot of like, well, I might get an extra planning period on A days so that I can fill up all of my I'm just making something up, but because I have more 8th graders than I have 7th graders. And so I may have more elective days on those A and B days. And so depending on how the week lines up, because we have 5 days a week and not even days of the week, in a 10-day, which is what the elementary language does, I get the 2-week average of 225 plus minutes, but I don't always get a average of 225 minutes in 25-minute blocks of time, just because they not only do they run an A/B schedule, but all of our middle schools have offsetting periods. So it creates, similar to what Bo was talking about, hanging chads of 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, 15 minutes here of disconnect and overlap. And in order to get all of the blocks of 220, minimum of 25 minutes of 225, it sometimes takes the 2-week average because of the A/B rotation to get it all done. And it may be possible to do that with the scheduling. I just know that scheduling would then become more difficult and be more adult driven and less kid course selection driven decision making than it currently is. Does that answer your question, Kathy?
Well, I guess what I'm wondering is, can we have the language that's current there and specify it for middle and high school, and then have a second one that deals with elementary? So you don't get rid of the language that allows the flexibility at the upper levels, but you add a whatever to make it clear for elementary schedules. And then K-8 we haven't even figured out, but and just
yeah. So the language right now is the elementary only language. Our current practice is to use that elementary language to allow for the 2-week average. If we adjust plan time as we are right now and decide to make it only elementary focus, that changes the practice of the language that we are currently implementing. Does that make sense now what I'm saying? We are choosing to use it basically because 6th graders are kind of elementary schools when it rolled through, for lack of a better phrase. We've used that language for a long period of time in the middle space because of the offsetting periods and the A/B scheduling nature of most specials at middle school. If we choose to leave it elementary only focus, we can no longer do that at the middle level.
I guess what I'm saying is, then let's put the language in that allows it to be done at the middle level, instead of trying to make, like, I don't want to undo something and redo something. We are trying to solve elementary problems because there's not enough time in the day versus middle and high school. So why don't we find a way to keep what's working there and then really just do something for elementary that doesn't mess with the other? Like, how do we hold harmless what's currently working at middle and high? That was our point. And then just talk about elementary in a way that doesn't mess with them. And I guess I'm not figuring out how to do that.
The intent was I'm just speaking from, as obviously I helped write it, so I'm speaking from that space. That was the intent, was that since we were doing work in elementary space, we didn't want to make a change to what's working in other places by adjusting the elementary, because we're in the elementary, because we were making adjustments to plan time in regards to elementary. We didn't want to, if we just left the word elementary, then it would impact what's working well at the middle level to make it work. And so in order to not have a negative impact by only having elementary focused language right now, we needed to expand it to being, to change that so it didn't have a negative impact at the middle level. Does that make sense? So I was trying to not have a negative repercussion by having, not adjusting that language.
I wonder if we need to see straw designs before we can really weigh in on this. I can see the wonder on both ends, but it's hard to react to a hypothetical right now. I could see a straw design being written where we feel like, wow, this really could upset the apple cart. I can also see straw designs written where we say, okay, maybe we do feel like we're maintaining what we want to maintain and adding clarity where we want to have clarity. So for me, it's difficult to weigh in on this. It's still in this brainstorming phase.
Yeah.
Yeah. Marty?
I would also say I have an interest in, not all elementary schools are going to be able to have the same type of schedule because of number of students and staffing things. And staffing is going to change year to year based on budget and other things. I would just want to have flexibility in the language, which I believe was sort of the intent of the way it was written in the past, to be able to adjust to fluctuating scenarios. And I think if the more specific language we have about different levels, the more complicated it makes it. And the more restrictive we are into being able to adapt to changing environments. So that's an interest. I'm naming it right now.
Any other questions about straw design group 3, was it, we're on? So do you want more time to work in your individual groups? It's now 10:15. We're going to adjourn at 11 o'clock. Do you want more time to work on your individual straw design groups now? Do you want to table this whole issue till next time we meet?
Can we
Pauline?
identify what we have in common at least? Because there's a lot of commonalities. Maybe we could go that far.
There is. That's right. So if we go through the document, how many would like to identify what's in common? Are you at a point where you can do that? Okay. So do you want to start back then at straw design group 1? We're going to have to look at all 3 of them. Do you see some things? And how do you want to mark these? Do you want to bold them, underline them? How do you want to mark the things they have in common?
Do we have group 3s on the same page now? I haven't looked. I've been toggling back and forth, but that would be helpful to see group 3 on the same doc.
Can we maybe highlight them in color to indicate that they match?
I can do that, or I just made a list of commonalities, however you want to do it.
My suggestion would be that we make a list of commonalities, just because of this is digital environment. It may be hard to go through all of them. And highlighting in different pieces. I know it works well on paper, but I think this might be a little hard to do. But I think Dennis's suggestion of a list of commonalities is what I was going to suggest. So I would jump in, if that's okay with folks, and say the first commonality is that it moves the time from within the contact day to the contract day that planning time can occur.
Say it again, Dave, or David.
Yep, no problem. It moves the plan time to being within the contract day instead of the contact day.
Okay.
It's actually back. You got it backwards, Dennis.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Yep. I was trying to emphasize my words right, but it's hard to get it straight. I mess it up half the time anyways.
Got it.
Okay. Maybe someone else can raise their hand and identify another commonality.
Shelley.
Unless I'm mistaken, I think all 3 teams agreed to limit the language to 2 types of planning, self-directed and administratively directed.
Other commonalities. Colleen?
It seems like all three of them increase the number of minutes for self-directed plan time. They're different in the amounts, but I think they all increase them.
Sandy?
All three mentioned making these decisions around decision making.
Sandy, you're kind of breaking up in your audio. Could you say that again?
Sorry. All three mentioned making decisions in a shared decision making. Did you get that?
Yep.
Okay.
That work?
Sandy, do you have another one? Another commonality, anyone see one? I don't see any other hands. Anyone motioning they want to speak? So it's 10:20. Do you want to go back to your straw design groups? What would you like to do next?
Is it
Norman's nodding yes.
Is it premature to have two representatives from each straw design try to come together? Or do we need to go back and really hash some things out in the straw design groups? I wonder what people are thinking.
Right. I think you could go either way on it. But if there's some differences in there, we probably ought to go back to the straw design groups if there's significant differences. Dennis?
So I have a question. I haven't worked with you in the past. How do you work it when you finally come to writing language? Is that the way you've done it, where you've picked some person from each straw design to sit down and write the language, or does each group write their language and we agree, try to come to consensus on one of them? How have you done that in the past?
It would be a composite group composed generally of two people from each group.
Okay, thanks.
To react to what Mila says, I mean, it seems like the biggest place that no one is really on the same space on is the minutes, the exact minute calculation. It seems like people are in general agreement on the structure and the frame of what should be in there. And so I do like Mila's suggestion, having two people from each group come together maybe sometime this week or midweek, so that we can kind of hash a framework together for language, and then have people see it and then be able to react to it on Monday when we come back.
That work for people? Anyone? Yeah, it's okay. So I need two people from each of the straw design. Deborah?
Linda has a question.
I'm sorry, Allison.
Linda had her hand up. She wanted to say something.
Linda? You're muted.
There we go. Sorry. Would it be possible that for after that group, that smaller group is met, to put the language out to everybody before we meet again on Monday, so we have a chance to kind of look things through?
That was my intention, was to get it done by Friday, before Friday, so that people would have at the very least the weekend to look at it. Not making any promises, but that's the intention.
Allison, did you have a question? Okay. So I need a person from, 2 people from group 1. Who would that be? Shelley and
I think Mila and I will be on the list no matter what. So let's have 2 people else besides in my group for that endeavor. Would be great.
I can do it if we need to, or do we need an administrative rep?
I would prefer maybe a Darren if Darren's willing.
He's got his hand up. He's volunteering.
So Darren and Dave, is that how you want to do it? Or Darren and Shelley and Dave be, Dave and Mila be the 8th?
Yeah, Mila and I will be part of the group no matter what, I'm assuming. And then I think Darren, especially since he's our elementary rep, needs to be on the committee from the principals. And so I think so right now I have Mila, myself, Shelley, and Darren, and then we can go through the other groups.
Yeah. Group 2?
I'm happy to sit on it.
I'm sorry, I didn't see who was speaking.
Heather.
Okay, Heather, thank you. Administrative or?
So what are we calling this group?
What are we calling the group?
Yeah.
Straw design.
Yeah, we had a term for we used for the straw design composite group or drafting group. Heather and Kathy.
Well, I didn't know if, I hate to volunteer somebody, but Teresa has the most experience with schedules. I mean, I would be glad to do it, but I'm probably the least familiar with everything. Although, you know me, I always have opinions. So.
Yeah, I'm happy to sit on it. That's fine. I just didn't want to be admin heavy.
Well, I think we've got it balanced with Dave and Mila being, if we get an admin and a teacher from each committee, I think we're good.
Perfect. You could put me down.
So Heather and Teresa, and I need a group 3. Laura Leppi and
I'd kind of like Bo, if that's all right, Bo, from Learning Services.
Dave, I'm happy to do that. I also feel like our building leaders have the most skin in the game here, so I was going to advocate for Marty, but
I'm good either way.
I'll go will of the group. Marty, what do you think?
I'm happy to do it. I'm also happy for you to do it, Bo.
I think I'll have my opportunity on Monday, and I'm not shy, but I think Marty, you're the most impacted by this.
Okay, happy to do it.
So do you have the 8 members of the group now?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Dave, Mila, Shelley, Darren, Heather Espinoza, Teresa, Laura, and Marty. Okay.
Guys,
and that'll be back.
Document.
I will send an invitation to that group for the next couple of days. And then I think for right now, we should probably transition to looking at what's coming next, which was our other agenda item.
Agreed.
Mila, can I just say something before we transition? I just want to thank the group. As I see the commonalities, there seems to be a consensus across groups around changing planning time to within the contract day as opposed to the contact day. And that's helpful in terms of making a decision around school start times for the fall. And that's a decision in which planning time is one of the weighty pieces we're trying to address, and making a decision. I would expect now to be able to communicate out a decision to the system Thursday or Friday of this week. So thanks for your help with that.
Thank you, Chris. So as we transition, you guys could go back out to your team drives and find a document called MOA summary. We'll be referring to that in here in a second. Whenever you're ready, Mila.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, so our intention here was to just give a little bit of foreshadowing to the remaining issues in our remaining 2 scheduled sessions. Time is getting short, as we always knew it would, but we wanted to just tee up the topics that we plan to discuss in a little more depth after we finish this straw design drafting composite group. We want to tee up and look at a few things on the 11th. So we don't want to jump into conversation today about those topics. We just want to mention the topics, suggest to you that further conversation would happen on the 11th and or then carrying over into the 14th. And so the one document that Dave drew your attention to, the MOA summary document, you saw something like this earlier in the year. Dave and I had looked at the MOAs that need to be revisited every year, and we had made suggestions to you about things that we thought needed some change and things that would be determined and things that didn't need any change this year. We've amended that list. We've moved a few things based on the time available to this work. And so we just want to run through that list real quickly for you. We do not foresee, and this is original to the first time you saw this list, changes needing to be made in the MOAs titled Shared Decision Making, Assessment Day, Elementary Specials PD, Strategic Communication, Implementation of Innovation Schools. I'm racing through that list, right? Hopefully you're following. Sabbatical leave, additional PD calendar day, ed effectiveness. We recently moved into this no change space, given that there's not going to be any legislative action and we don't see time or need to spend time in this committee looking at that. Induction licensure, we had hoped to have some conversations, gonna table that for another year. Multi-tiered systems of support advisory committee, thinking that we can just table that for another year. The work is ongoing. Interest-based strategies committee, just looking at language around this group, and think we can table that for another year. And then the compensation study committee, we'll hear some of the recommendations and we'll be looking at compensation, but for this session that we're in right now, we don't see making any changes to the scope and the language in that MOA. What we do see that still needs to have some changes determined is the work of the Special Staffing Committee. And so we'd like to bring that to you on the 11th. And then we see that we can delete a couple of MOAs, we believe, would recommend the one-time certified compensation stipend buyout that we had just for the past year. And then the teacher planning time, which we are so close to getting to an agreement on right now with the work we're doing today and into next week. So let me just pause for clarifying questions about this document.
Mila, after the questions, did you want to talk a little bit about the specials ratios now? About the implementation timeline and stuff?
Yeah, we could. So in a typical year, the specials subcommittee was working along and they were making recommendations about slightly tweaking the allocations. Our charge was to monitor the effectiveness of those allocations. And we have some recommendations as a committee that required some adjustment. In the SBB, the student school-based budgeting process, we because of the traditional timing of budgeting and our recommendations to this group, that was actually on the agenda for March 13th to be discussed. And we went ahead and we inserted some of the proposed allocations into school-based budgets, knowing that we were going to come to this group and we were going to discuss the recommended reallocation. And then when everything got canceled and shut down with us and our work, those recommended allocations sort of stayed in the school-based budgets. And so they're sitting there right now in elementary school-based budgets. And so it's a little bit of a cart before the horse, I feel like. But I want to just just name that right up front, and then we could share with you what those allocations are and why the rationale behind recommending them. Dave, what else would you want to add to that?
The only other thing I would add is that, we made that decision for like I was part of the school-based budgeting with the strategic compensation, and strategic compensation is not the right word. Strategic staffing, that's the word we were using. Sorry. And one of the things that we were caught in this weird timing because of the shutdown and because of COVID. At that time, we didn't know when we were coming back, if we were going to bring back IBS, what to do in that sense. And, the recommendation was we didn't want to hold up people's ability to plan and to budget and to schedule based on what you'll see is probably a more generous allocation model than, not probably, it is a more generous allocation model than is currently listed in the contract language. And so I felt like because of that circumstance, it was better to continue to move forward than it was to wait until the report came to here, because it was a more generous allocation. Had it been a less generous allocation, then obviously we would have brought that to you guys and have that conversation before we could have moved forward. But just because of the strange nature, we got out of sync with all of our timings, which will be another timing thing that I'm about to talk about in just a minute. So other questions about the MOAs and the buckets.
Dorman, you had your hand up?
Yes, this is a proposed proposal on current memorandum of agreement. This wouldn't preclude any additional ones that we find necessary as we move on, would it?
It would not. It's just based on what's currently in the contract.
Linda? You're muted, Linda. Linda, your microphone's muted.
You mean you didn't hear me?
Now we can.
I'm sorry. To make sure that we change the dates on the interest-based strategy language from 2019-20 to 2021.
Yeah, no, when we said no changes, there were some date updates and that kind of stuff, but no substantive like changes to the document. But yes, I'll make sure I make a note of that to get it changed. Thank you.
Questions? So now we've talked about for Monday, planning time, straw design report and discussion. I assume next would be the MOAs. Then did you want to go to the special staffing next?
Probably. And then the other subject for these next two dates is how to handle compensation. Compensation topics that we've had listed out, including the reports from the different committees. And also the other issue that we've been discussing of rolling the contract date up a month that we would be able to do. So in that, we have, and correct me if I'm wrong, Milo, I believe on the 11th, we have some time with Susie DeYoung scheduled for her to come and talk about the fiscal feasibility of rolling the contract up a month, even in this crazy environment. And you'll receive a report from the auditors to talk about how that works and the logistics behind it. So that'd be one other topic. And then Milo and I were discussing, and we've had lots of conversations with different folks around the fact that the legislator and our negotiations timeline and budgeting timeline are all out of complete whack due to the fact that the JBC hasn't met in a month and a half now, let alone presented a long bill or a school finance act. And so one of the things that we would like to discuss and potentially bring some language for you to react to is potentially an MOA around a 1 year unprecedented setting agreement to discuss compensation in the month of June during the district's budgeting, new budgeting window, because we are no longer going to be in school while the district knows what the budgets are really going to look like from the state. Also, revenue forecasts from local share and all that stuff isn't expected to come out until well after the end of the, really in the end of the school year window of time. And so we were thinking and would like to hear people's reaction to giving you a document to react to around agreeing as a team, and then having members ratify and the board ratify an agreement to negotiate the compensation end, including reports from the study committees during the month of June. So those would be the other items for discussion on the 11th, and our last two dates, whatever the other date was. I can't remember it off the top of my head now. Yeah. Milo, anything you'd add on that? Oh, sorry, Jim.
Be the 11th and the 14th?
Yeah.
That you're talking about. So all these topics would be distributed in those 2 days, the way you're planning on now or thinking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
so
Dennis, go ahead.
Under compensation topics, that comes up on Monday, the 11th is the plan.
No.
But it'll extend over into the 14th?
No.
So what we're thinking of doing is wanting to present language for you guys for the team to react to that says we're not going to talk about compensation now.
Right.
We're going to talk about it in June for a potential second ratification process, or just having it discussed during June through an MOA. And so, sorry, Jim.
You want to do that on the 14th, right?
Yeah, on the 14th, yeah.
The 11th or the 14th.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So,
okay.
Hopefully on the 11th. But if we can't, if we spend some time in the straw design with planning time, some of these things may naturally get bumped to the 14th. But the idea would be to just not talk about compensation, just talk about language that extends our ratification process.
Dennis.
Jim or David, did you say special? Did you say special staffing or specials staffing?
Specials, as in like electives, art, music, PE.
Yeah. Right. Okay, got it.
And then the other thing to discuss that we want to bring some language is there's an article about special education students and a process. I think that is 26.6. Yeah, and the thing we want to do on the 11th also is bring some language proposal. That was one of the issues that we had talked about needing to address this year. And so the thought would be to bring up some language proposal to this group on the 11th. And if there's not time on the 11th, it would carry to the 14th for you all to react to, for us to walk through. None of these are items that need like the full story and interest and options process. They're all things that we've discussed at some level. We need you to see language, have some conversation, and then act on it. And so it's the contract date realignment question. It's these elementary specials MOA. Now that one maybe is a little more of a adoption of a committee's recommendation. The extent, this idea of extending our negotiations to consider the comp issues, and this idea of the special ed 26.6 language change. So those are the 4 things that I have as topics for discussion and perhaps some adaptation of our language.
Mila, for 26.6, weren't we going to ask Heather and Deb and maybe other friend or two to come together this week and react to just it's basically like a two-word change, basically, to bring to the group.
Yeah,
is that correct?
Heather does have something I think that she's been working on that we've been talking about a little bit. Should we have somebody from this team join us to have that conversation? What do you think?
Yeah, I think Deb Blake is who I was thinking
Okay.
as our resident special education teacher.
Sure.
So that the two of us can see that, react to it, and then we can go from there.
So I'm going to invite Deb and Dave and Heather Gracious to a meeting with the 4 of us a little bit later this week. And we can chat about what we're thinking and what we might want to bring back to this group on the 11th or maybe the 14th if we run out of time. Okay.
You need to set a date in June. Do you need to set a date in June? Sounds to me like you're talking about a date in June. Or not?
Yeah, so I think what we'll do with that MOA is, as part of that process, present a series of potential dates for the scheduling process.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but so as not to put the cart before the horse, we don't want to schedule dates when we haven't even approved as a group the idea that we would extend our negotiations into any kind of a subsequent section.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Anything else for today? Then it looks like we are at checkout. Is that correct?
I think so.
Yep.
Can I,
All right.
sorry, can I throw in one more, one crazy idea that I've just had in during the session at some point, but maybe, and tell me, Jim and Dennis, if this is out of process, I don't know. I'm just thinking outside the box because we have a limited amount of time. What if maybe after our next 2 meetings, could we start a group Google Doc and just fill in our own story on compensation? So that when we come back together to talk about it on the 11th and 14th, that we could just clear up some questions people might have about certain things that are put on there, and then we can just move on. Is that something we can entertain? I don't know, just an idea.
So my initial reaction, Sandy, is, I mean, obviously collecting questions is always beneficial and whatnot. At this moment, there's not a lot we can talk about in compensation because we don't even know what is going to be available in compensation. With the state ranging from budget cuts that range from flat to 20%, what compensation looks like and what is presented and how we react to it and the story is really going to be dependent on where we land in that range. And I don't know that we can talk about it on the 11th and 14th, actually talking about compensation on the 11th and 14th.
Wait, I'm talking about June though, right? Did I say the May dates? Sorry.
You said the May dates, yep.
Sorry, I meant the June dates. Dates.
Yeah, I mean, let's see what we have on schedule and what the time frame looks like. But yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just as a reaction.
We can talk about it on the 14th or something, but yeah, just an idea.
Okay. Sounds good.
Dennis, your thoughts on that?
Well, there are groups that do that. They do their story in advance and they have it so that people can have it done when they come to the table, just as a way of trying to save some time. When you do come back, then you need to have some time where you can add to the story too. But that's been done. Let's see.
Okay. Thanks. Anyone else before we go to checkout? Kathy?
I think that's a good idea for time-wise, but I guess I want to really caution us because one thing I've noticed with the process is the strength of the process is hearing the story from somebody's mouth. And I feel like this is really going to be hard. And I don't want to read something that someone wrote and have emotions that can't be processed. So I think on any other topic, I would be fine with that, but I'm not fine with it on budget because this is going to be really bad from all accounts. And I just think we need to be as present and as personal as possible in this process. And we're already doing certain things that, again, it's for time reasons. We don't have time to do a question or a process, but we're taking out all the personal things to get things done. And I would really have a problem when we come to the budget, not hearing from people and feeling that personal nature, because that's what it's gonna take to get through this together.
Okay. Should we talk about, are there options we might exercise to expedite when we get to this in June, and maybe talk about if somebody has some ways we might on the 14th when we talk about the MOA?
I think maybe we should approve the MOA first and see what we maybe think about for times that we're talking about. And then we can, get to that place when we get there. Does that make sense? Like I said, the same thing twice, but I think we should just worry about that, cross that bridge when we get there.
All right. Anything else for checkout? We'll see you next Monday at 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. on a Zoom conference. So quick checkout, you can take up to as many words as you want, as long as it's less than 15. Who'd like to start?
I'll start. Thanks for letting me work with you guys. This was the easiest facilitation I've ever done. Sandy, it was good seeing you. And good luck going forward. You guys are dealing with the same kind of things I work with that all the other districts I work with, whether they're large or small. So,
who'd like to go next? Linda, go for it. We'll go backwards up the list.
Okay, that sounds good. I just think it's been good progress today, and I'm anxious to see what the smaller group comes up with as they try to assimilate all our ideas.
Sandy.
I think it went really well. I just appreciate everyone's willingness to speak out and come up with the ideas we came up with. Thanks to everybody.
Matt.
Yeah, good session today. I think we made some progress. I'm cautiously optimistic that we're getting close to sealing the deal on a tough issue that we've been working on for a long time. So feeling good about that.
Kathy.
Really great discussion. I just miss y'all. So, but this is a good substitute. At least we get to see each other. And Dorman, I love your background. It looks like a lake in Ecuador.
And I'm looking for Laura Mitchell. There she is. For me, she's up in the corner. Laura, you're next.
You skipped Darren, but don't forget to go back to him.
Oh, I did. You're right. Thank you.
I know my way backwards and forwards, but no, I appreciate, and I think it sort of goes to what Dennis was saying, is the maturity of the group and the willingness to be open-minded, to see both sides, the needs of both the district and the educators, and just the ability to have really honest conversations and being willing to come together and try to find something that works. I think, my first year on the IBS, and everybody, this has been something that's been out there for a long time, so I was really afraid, but just because I know you had more to work with this time than you've ever had. But again, I think there was a lot of willingness to make something that worked. And I know I went over my words, but I thought it was a great discussion, and just says a lot about our team.
Darren.
Great progress and lots of professionalism today. So great job.
Marty.
Yeah, I'm encouraged. I think that we made some progress today, and I'm hopeful that we'll make some more.
Laura.
I am also encouraged. I love hearing people's perspectives, because I think sometimes, we get used to our own, and it's great to hear other people talk about things. And I love other folks' ability to summarize and bring people together, because that's, oh, I'm sorry, did my mic do weird things? I saw everyone go like this. But thank you for everyone. We'll stop there.
Okay. Dorman.
Yeah, I think we're doing really good work. I don't know what the right word is, but tackling this particular subject that has been ongoing for multiple years in a unique and new manner, and making such great progress on it, I think that says a lot about our district and the people that are in our district, and our ability to tackle these things even in odd times.
You skipped Nancy.
Thank you. Nancy.
That's okay. Well, I'm encouraged to see how many commonalities we had in our breakout groups. I really like that, because I don't know, it just makes the whole process easier. And I want to say, I hope that the kids and the families celebrate the teachers this week in some way. So.
Heather.
I think it was a good day. I was super appreciative of the groups, all of the groups' work and moving us forward. And I look forward to seeing what comes out of the subgroup.
Chris.
So I think planning time is one of those topics that typically is very positional in most systems when teams come together to talk through. And I didn't have a single word in my straw design team that felt positional, nor in our larger team. And I just think that says a lot about who we are as an organization and the work that this team does together.
Colleen.
I was super excited to see how close we were, and I'm really looking forward to that language coming back on Monday to take a look at it. Thanks for all your hard work. Happy Teacher Appreciation Week.
Oh.
Yeah, very much the same. It was a topic that this team's been grappling with for a long time. Felt like we made some progress, and I'm really excited to see what the combined group brings forward. And I echo appreciation for our teachers today and every day for the work that they do. Truly heroes.
Heather.
Good progress today. Great conversation. Thanks, everyone.
Shelley. Michelle.
Mhm. I'm just proud to be part of this team. I'm proud of the work that we do. And as we live in this remote learning space, I'm really proud to be part of this district. I'm from a family of teachers, and we've done a lot of comparing and contrasting about our experiences. And I'm just grateful for the work family and the workspace that I'm in.
Deborah.
I think my word for the day is movement and headway. I think we finally made some really great progress. And I would like to thank administrators. I know it's Teacher Appreciation Week, but what you guys have stepped up to do over the last several weeks as well, even before we had to jump in, was remarkable and continues to be remarkable. And I know you guys have been working 60 and 70-hour weeks in addition to us. So let's make it Educator Week, and you guys have my appreciation.
Teresa.
Thank you, Deborah. That was really nice. Appreciate it. Appreciate all of our educators in the system and working for Adams 12. I am very excited about the progress we made today, and I'm learning a lot, being my first year. I'm just so excited. I know last week there was hard conversations, and just seeing all that work and discussion come together felt really good today. So thank you everyone for your hard work.
Allison.
I love going last. I will just say, I think, this is my second year on the team, and it just is so nice to really be able to hear the multiple perspectives represented in this room, even on like a very hot button controversial issue that we know kind of gets people's blood pressure up, and everybody just is so calm, and the way that we communicate with each other just really does get to the root of how everybody's feeling. But I hope no one ever leaves feeling like angry or frustrated, because I think that like really getting to that root of that issue helps us come up with the best possible solution. So I appreciate you all and your willingness to always share and ask questions and listen to each other.
Dennis, thank you for your work today. I appreciate it. For all of you, I hope that the week has great decisions in line for you, and none of them are horrendous. So good luck in the week. Take care of yourselves, be safe, and we'll see you next Monday.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
You too.
Goodbye.